Aska is a new game released June 20th of this year, and I currently have about 50 hours in the game, and I've practically done everything through the game, besides a few small things like the market and the boat. TLDR for those of you who clicked on this video trying to figure out if the game is a good fit for you, it's basically a slow burn. The game will punish you for fucking up, and you will lose progress if you're a dumbass, but if you're not dumb, you'll be a-okay. But I can't lie to you, you're going to be sitting there for a while grinding out shit, so if you like games like Warframe, Valheim, or Colony Survival, this game might be your cup of tea. If you are not into the slower paced games, if you like fast, constant action gameplay, do not buy this game. It will never be in your vein. I would just skip it, go to something else. Also, you could skip to the timestamp of tips if you're generally new to this game and you need help, so you can skip there, and you can also comment down below if I don't really cover it there. Alright, on with the video. First and foremost, before we even look into the meat of this game, we should look at the bones. The optimization is still a bit weak, definitely not bad, but if you're on a weak rig, I'd recommend turning all the settings to low before you even start the game up. My computer runs about 80 degrees Celsius while running at the highest settings, and you're going to have a little bit of lag issues depending on how big your base is. Like, mine's huge, so towards the end it was just lagging really bad, so it definitely needs a bit of tweaking there. But do you see why? This game just looks amazing. I love the look of the Jotun's blood, I love the look of the trees, I love the item icons, I love how you hold them, it just all looks really good. The only minor complaint I have is that the characters, not you in particular, but just any people in the game in general, just kind of don't look great. I'd like to say that they're like uncanny ugly, right? I'm fine with ugly because, you know, it's a Viking game, they're gonna be ugly, but this just looks uncanny. But yeah, I love the POIs, I love the structures, I love all of it, it looks amazing. Oh, Jesus Christ, it's already summer? What the fuck? I need to get this move on before it turns to winter. The seasons are a good way of making the game feel like the world is moving around you whether you like it or not. You're not going to be able to just sit there and huddle down, you're going to have to keep moving forward. Each season comes with new foods and new challenges that you have to deal with. If you want to keep farming a certain food, tough shit, it's winter already, you're fucked. Usually that's the only challenge you have is winter and the food's changing out, but I doubt that they're going to stay like that forever and each season's going to come with its own challenges and tribulations. But winter is something that is really good in this game. It is always a looming threat that you have to be ready for or else your people could starve or they could freeze to death. At least for the first year, and then after that it kind of changes where you could probably give all your people clothes so it's not as big of an issue. But that first winter is fucking brutal. Me and my friends just quit the game when we played together because of how brutal it was. And I think that's by design. It's meant to be brutal. It's meant to show how hard the winters were. By the way, I'm not saying that this is a bad thing. I love how brutal it is. There's only one complaint I have with it. You kind of just have to sit there, man. Like, the first winter, even though I had clothes, I was still getting just completely butt-fucked by it. I would always get sick. I'd always just have to sit there the entire winter, practically. My gripe is with getting sick because you lose almost all your stamina regen, and you just have to sit there in a healing hut getting healed so you can go back and do something else. My fix is relatively simple. Just give us 2 to 5 minutes of immunity after we clear out the sickness. So as soon as you go to the healing hut, you get 2 to 5 minutes of being immune to being sick. You could try to speedrun a boss and get the altar that helps clear colds, but I don't think you could do that in the first year, as a solo at least. Now let's get to my favorite part, the blood moons and the invasions, basically signaling in a new year or a new season. Blood moons happen every season, and they send a few enemies at you to try and, make sure that you have defenses up to keep your people safe. There's also these bunny things that can come around during the daytime and eat stuff you leave on the ground, so just be mindful of that. Don't leave anything good on the ground so they don't eat it. The underlying thing here is that you just have to be at your base during all these events. If you're not there, then it's a you problem. It's a skill issue, if you will. Now I'm going to lightly touch on the gameplay loop because if I was going to talk about it in full, then this whole video essay would be like 4 hours long. But basically it boils down to explore, farm, spawn people, make them do the farming for you, rinse and repeat. And what I mean is you need to explore around the map to find the stuff called Jotun's blood. It's how you spawn your fellow monkey by putting 5 of it into the Eye of Odin. Then after 10 minutes, this ugly ass motherfucker will spawn in and help you build unless you assign him to a certain structure. So say we assign him to stone. Oh wait, we need a marker where there's stone so he can go and mine that. So we make that marker, oh but wait, he needs a pickaxe to mine those rocks. So we make one for him, and wait, he's starting to starve because he doesn't have enough food to keep himself going. So we have to go get more Jotun's blood so he can make someone who does that for him. It's definitely not a perfect summary because this game has a lot of different gameplay loops that kind of form this like gyroscope of gameplay loops. And I've seen a fair few critiques about this, and some of them are kind of dumb. but some of them are fair. Like, there should be definitely more exploration elements, but again, it's early access, so what are you gonna do? Basically, what I'm trying to fucking say is that if you're complaining about the gameplay loop and all that, it's either just not for you, or it's a skill issue. Speaking of skill issues, the combat is in a weird place for me. I think a lot of the enemies get really easy after you fight them a few times, and it just makes it easier with the torpidity. The torpidity in short will mean that if you beat them enough, they'll eventually just knock out a little bit and just stand there for a second daze so you can beat the shit out of them some more. It's a very nice addition to have, especially during the invasions or if you're fighting off hordes of enemies in their spawns. The only critiques on straight combat that I have so far is the heavy attacks and blocking. Heavy attacks don't feel like they're worth the amount of startup lag and just for a little bonus damage and extra torpidity. It's in a relatively decent spot though because it's a good way of starting up a fight because you can run and jump and then hit something and it does a heavy attack. I think a slight change to just more damage or more torpidity would be a really good change to make it feel like it's more worth using with your light attacks during the middle of a fight. At least the heavy attack is somewhat useful, unlike the blocking. Blocking with a shield in this game is fucking pointless. I fought Fenrir one time and he just broke my shield in 7 hits. Like, what is the point of having a shield if it's just gonna shatter on you? Like, it's okay to make skirmishers, and maybe I just didn't use it right, but I personally just don't see a reason to have them on your character. Like, maybe it can help you turtle a little bit if you need that extra buffer so you can get used to the rolling. Easily, hands down, my favorite part of combat is having these doggos following you around and helping you with enemies. It's just so cool to have this doggo beating the shit out of enemies for you. They're just the bestest boys. They're fun to take on your adventures, but leave them at home if you're going to a boss fight. You don't want to make the same mistakes I did. Speaking of the bosses, they're in a place that, again, I don't really love them, but I don't really hate them. Bosses in this game spawn after you break 2 spawners for an enemy in a camp. The only exception is the Stone Yone, which you have to feed 5 Jotun's blood to. There's one for the Wights, Skeleton, Fenrir, and the Draugr boss, but beat them at your own leisure. It doesn't really matter which one you do, if in that order or whatever. After defeating a boss, they will give you an artifact that you can use to build an altar, which will give you a buff if someone is praying to it. They're all useful in their own way, but the earth one is the best in my opinion. It gives you a health and damage boost to wood and stone. So basically, you're going to have more HP, and you're going to be mining away at wood and stone better. And also, your AI can get the bonus too, so they'll be fucking slaughtering that wood and stone. Honestly, the boost it gives my men to handle wood and hard rocks just is so orgasmic. Wait a second. The AI is the meat of this game, and in short, they are the people that you will have to take care of so they can take care of you. But you will have to manage their food, their water, their sleep, their work schedule, and make sure that they're happy. Thankfully, we're building a community here, so these AIs can do jobs for you as well. You can make them forage, you can make them cut trees, you can make them farm, you can make them build, you can make them train puppies. Basically, any useful job you can use for a village, you can make them do. They are pretty damn good, and they're pretty well thought out. They have really good pathing, but there are a few kinks, which is, obvious. First off, they're pretty damn smart. Like, the marker mechanic is pretty damn good, making them farm in specific areas that you designate, and also having them just search around for stuff that they need is amazing. It is really nice to not have to yell, "What the fuck are you doing?" all the time like in other games. Second is the assigning feature. I really like it. Maybe it'll get bogged down in the future, but I love how simple it is. The menu can be a little unintuitive at times, but it's great. I love being able to assign characters to a warehouse and having them accumulate all my loot from around the village in one place. I love how simple it is to tell people what to build at a workbench or what priorities they should have. Lastly, I really like the personal debuffs and skills that these characters have. For those of you who don't know, basically every character comes with 5 skills and debuffs that will determine how you make them work or what they work on and all of that stuff. For example, you can have a lumberman that eats extra food because he's really good at cutting lumber, or someone that has soggy discomfort so they hate working in the rain, or something like that. Now, a lot of these aren't too important and they won't change the game too much, but I feel like they should a little bit, so I think they should add a few more that are a little bit more interesting. Now for stuff I get slightly annoyed by, but I can live with. First, I just said I love the warehouse and all that and putting someone to work on it, and I think it's good that you can have someone that expedites the process, but I really think that there should be something so when they finally fill up their storage, they will fill out the warehouse instead. And maybe that's already a thing and it was just glitched when I made my warehouse the first time, but when I made my warehouse, it just did not, like, nobody put anything in there. It was just barren until I made someone do it for me. Also, the priority system is a little bit lame. Like, I would like to change the priorities on an individual level, not just for all of them on that specific task. So like my woodcutters, I would like to make someone have a very high priority for thatch, but all the rest of them be able to have a low priority for thatch. Lastly, sometimes they'll just come up to me and start asking me to make them something, even though it's already built. Like, I'll have a rake already built, and it'll be sitting there in the workshop, and they'll just be like, huh? And this should be a simple fix. Just make sure that they check before they come and ask me around them and see if there's any workshops or anything that have a rake in them so they could go steal it. Now for the generally bad, and sometimes they're just dumb. Like, my warehouse manager walked off into the middle of the freezing morning and just died in the middle of nowhere. Like, huh? Why the fuck are you out here? Like, I genuinely can't for the life of me know why he was out here. My only guess is he was trying to grab some items for the warehouse that one of the other bots dropped. Speaking of, for some reason, when the day is done, the AIs will just drop all their shit. Like, they'll just spread it and just drop it all on the ground. Or they'll leave stuff on the anvil that needs to be hammered out, and it'll just turn into useless slag overnight. Honestly, a cool fix for this is that it was incorporated into the gameplay. Make it like an actual thing, so if they hate you and they're unhappy, they'll just drop their shit on the ground. But if they like you, they'll go and put their shit away before going on their leisure time. I'd also like it if I didn't have to put patrol markers at the bosses so I could have a decent fight with the bosses without being, at a complete disadvantage. So I wish you could just tell them to follow you and help you fight stuff, because that would be a lot easier for someone who's solo. There's definitely a lot more to say about the AI, but all in all, they're very good and is a great addition to the game. I also got some general random shit that doesn't fit into the video, so this is where you just get a random dump of random stuff I want to say. First of all, the invasions are fucking amazing, and I love them so much. They're cool, it's great, you feel like you're fighting at Mordor, holding off the armies of the fucking orcs. It's great, I fucking love it. Keep shit like this. It's amazing, it's fun, and it makes you feel like a badass for holding off an entire army. Although I do really like the Ewan's Blood concept, I do want more out of the game than that. So, I really like the idea that they add something so you can choose a little bit, what the people's special stats would be. So, you could get something that would make them more of a fighter, or more of a woodcutter, or more of a stone cutter. Basically something so you can have a little bit more choice in what spawns in. The Blessing of the Gods seems pointless right now. I think it'll eventually become a thing, but I thought I'd mention it. I don't think I've gotten any bonuses or boosts from it, so maybe, I don't know. Lastly, I think the statue you get from being the Stone Yeoman is cool and all, and it's great, and it does bonuses and all that, but I really think they should make it so it, rises when you need it at your village. So, if you're fighting the invasion or blood moons or something, it just rises out and just starts beating shit to death for you. Because you can't just have a stone golem that just doesn't do anything, right? That's boring. Give me my stone defender, damn it. This is like giving someone an iron golem statue that doesn't actually move around or do anything. It just gives your beacons a boost or something. Make it do something cool. So this segment is supposed to be about tips and tricks, but my small pea brain can't comprehend just giving people off-the-cuff tips. So what my plan is that I'm going to go through negative reviews of people complaining about things in the game that they did not understand and correcting it. For these negative reviews, I'm just going to be actually using clips of the negative reviews, but not showing their names or anything so they don't get harassed, because that's just not cool. These guys just don't like the game. It's fine. Leave them alone. My point here isn't to mock these people or make fun of them or anything like that. My point here is just to explain what they were doing wrong so newer players don't fall into the same pit traps as them. With that out of the way, let's begin. One of the biggest pitfalls I find new players getting into is the reborn and respawning as a ghost mechanic. Basically, you can respawn as a ghost and use one of your characters as a sacrifice so you can spawn in early. Or you can be reborn and just take the hit to your skill stats, which is just a better option in my opinion. Your people are a rare resource, and Ewan's Blood is going to keep getting more and more scarce the more you play, so you do not want to just keep sacrificing them to nothing. So I recommend sacrificing the skills and keeping your people around. If you're having problems with your villagers not doing what you assign them to do, check if they're actually assigned to do the thing you want them to do. Check if he's actually made to cook meat right now. Because I'm pretty sure if you reassign someone to it, they're going to have to be reassigned in general. I can't tell if he's talking about how his villager would not keep the fire going for himself, or if he meant he won't keep every fire going at once. If it's the latter, that's not their job, they only make food. If it's the former, then maybe you just didn't have enough campfire wood to actually keep the fire going. They do need to add a role where someone just keeps all fires going for you though, because that's really nice to have during the winter so you don't have to do that yourself. If your people aren't grabbing a weapon, that could just be an issue with the AI, or that could be an issue with how you have your military members selected and assigned. You can choose to make them skirmishers, brawlers, or bruisers, I am pretty sure, and those all use different weapons. Again, there's no context for this, so this guy could have just left him homeless and didn't realize, and they just kept following him, asking him to, like, give him a home, and they were just, like, left hanging the entire time, which, if that's the case, it's fucking hilarious, but if not, maybe it was the winter and they were standing around a campfire. Yes, villagers will be unhappy, even if you give them food and defenses, because you also have to add these Stonehenge things, and you can also check their schedule balance and all that, and how they're unhappy and all that at this screen right here. It'll show you if they're increasing in happiness, decreasing in happiness, and what you need to do to improve their happiness. You also gotta check their skills, because some of them like it when it's nighttime, and if you have them working in the daytime, they'll lose happiness. I'm pretty sure that they can't do this for themselves. It's kind of lame, but honestly, if you need the food from the fish, then just go make a hunter's hut. It's not worth it. I explained this earlier in the video, but warehouses have to have someone assigned to them to actually put stuff into them. Your people will not put stuff into it. Like, a lumberman will not put wood straight into the warehouse. Someone else has to come over and put it into the warehouse. I agree it's a little stupid and a little silly, but also I think it's fine. It's not that big of a deal. Wasting one person on a warehouse isn't that bad. If they're not filling out your storages evenly, that's probably because they're prioritizing to grab stuff over others. I'm pretty sure from the get-go, they're always prioritizing logs and long sticks over other things. I recommend just fiddling around with it and changing to stuff that you actually need at the time. Yeah, sometimes archers will just walk at stuff and try to hit them with their bow. I don't know why. It's a kink in their AI. It's kind of dumb, but it happens. Yes, rope is used in a lot of resource crafting, and that's the point. It's a resource management sim. If this is really that big of an issue for you, just set a worker to make it for you in a workshop and have them make like a ton of it, because they'll just take bark from your woodcutters and turn it into fibers. Which you guys can do the same. If you do it from your inventory, it'll do it instantly for you. So I would recommend doing that if you ever need fiber. Then you can also sacrifice half of your farm for flax and get like a ton of fiber that way. This guy has a point. Like, sometimes they'll cut down a mountain of trees and just leave a ton of resources on the floor depending on your prioritization. They also just leave stumps on the ground. I'd really hope that they change that so you can have someone like work on that for you, because I'd like to be able to build stuff, but I have to go through and cut down all these stumps because they just won't do it themselves. Yes, they'll come to your town a lot, and it's a common event for them to come over and start eating the shit on the ring of your town. But you can just walk at them and they'll go away. But this isn't a harassment campaign against you, it's just to help accelerate the despawning process, because they just eat some loot on the ground that your AIs have just left there. If you guys are struggling to get compost for your farms, I know a perfect way of doing it. Just get a fishing village and just leave it alone for a while, and all those fish will rot, and then your people can just go grab it and use it for the compost. It's really funny, and I like doing it a lot. If you need to heal in the early game, just use garlic, because apparently that's a good way of healing. I didn't even know that until this guy commented on that guy's post, but yeah, you can use garlic and onions and stuff to heal yourself minorly. But also, healing in the early game is just a bitch, so I get anyone's complaints for that. It definitely is really annoying. I've seen so many complaints about the blood moons and how all your buildings get destroyed and oh my god, the world's burning down around you, so let me explain to you how to handle a blood moon. You see the symbol on this compass? It shows you exactly where they're coming from right now. So place yourself between them and the village and just hold them off. It's not that big of a deal. You can handle most of the things even until like the late game with a goddamn club if you wanted to. Like, they really don't send out that much, and as long as you're pretty proficient at rolling and using light attacks, you're fine. But when they send the bear, yes, it's going to suck, so what you probably want to do is just roll around and just keep it busy for the rest of the night, and it'll piss off by morning. So if you're ever having issues with blood moons, they'll piss off by morning, so just train them around in circles. I have a few more tips that are just from me because of stuff that I used to do and how stupid I was. If you want to chop up a piece of meat or a fish, you drop it on the ground and use a knife to cut it up. I was dumb and I kept trying to cut it in my inventory, like not the meat, but the fish. It was so goofy. If you want to get a cave entrance and get iron, you see these big old rocks, you put a cave entrance on there, build it up, and then you can go in and grab the iron after cutting down these walls. I recommend being liberal with characters like the blacksmith, the coal maker, and the gatherers. They're not useful all year round. Sometimes you just don't have iron, sometimes you don't have firewood, sometimes you don't need to be gathering shit. So move them around. It's more useful to have builders than just someone sitting on their hands. I recommend getting a warehouse down early and getting a lot of the common storages as well, because it makes your life just so much easier throughout the game if you have a designated spot to grab a lot of your loot from. And that's about it for tips. If there's anything else you guys need to ask, feel free to ask me in the comments. I will try to answer to the best of my abilities. But yeah, that's about it. I am so happy with how much they're updating this game. Like, but in the making of this video, they have updated the game like 3 times, right? Like, this is really good, and it's nice to see an early access game actually getting treated like it needs to be polished. It's too often I see a game in early access, they don't polish it, and then they release it when it's completely dog shit, that you can't fucking run it, it's not optimized. But seeing people put their nose to the grindstone and just work on polishing the game is so nice. It's such a breath of fresh air. So all the love to the Aska developers, they're doing great. I also really hope that if you're trying to get into Aska and see how it, like, you know, testing the waters with this video, I really hope I changed your mind into either getting it, or if it's just not for you, not getting it, because, you know, not every game's for everyone, you know? So I really hope that I've helped persuade your opinion in some way. I really hope that you guys get the game if it's really tickling your fancy from this video, and I really hope you guys enjoyed the video, and I hope you guys have a great day. To keep going farther and farther out, exploring farther and farther out. Well, that's just embarrassing, ain't it?